what's going on, guys? It's Punkavai here on behalf of MMOBomb.com, and welcome back to the Free to Play Podcast, episode 85. Today is September 22nd, 2013. This has been a quite interesting development over the last few days / week. We have Dota 2 getting LAN support. We have Capcom announcing a dungeon crawler deep down for the PlayStation 4 that happens to be free to play. And Mass decided to let a lot of players in, starting at level 58, getting an instant character leveled up to that level. And then we also have World of Warplanes being delayed once again. We'll talk about all that and more on this episode. But first of all, let's go ahead and introduce our co-host. Now, we have one that wasn't here last week, but is usually here. That guy is known as Kevin. Kevin, how are you doing this week?
I still have no name, and I've been a zombie for most of the weekend. I'm glad to say I'm back to being the living. Don't ask how I pulled it off. It's not possible for most people.
He pulled the resurrection spell, and then he's no longer a
I
zombie.
said don't ask. Don't tell people this. Secret.
Okay. And then on the other side of things, we have the stallion known as Jason Winter. How are you doing, Jason?
I liked it better when we had a girl on the show.
You liked it better? Oh, she'll come back.
Oh, okay.
The squid will return at some point. Maybe eventually we'll just have all four of us on here at one time. Although that could be a cacophony. I can't even say that word pronounced.
Cacophony? I don't even know how to pronounce it correctly.
Cacophony.
Cacophony. There we go.
Yeah, a cluster fudge.
A cluster fudge, yes.
Of good times. But why don't we go ahead then and just get right into the news, because there's quite a bit about it, and there's quite a lot of it as well. Not just a bit about it, but a lot of it to get through. So starting with our first topic of discussion, Dota 2 getting LAN support, and Gladys is coming to Dota 2 as well from Portal. The suicidal, she's not suicidal. Homicidal robot out to make you test until your kneecaps bleed, your feet fall off, and you get shot through the face with as many little turret bullets as possible. Dota 2, though, getting the LAN support, that's probably the biggest part of the update that we should talk about. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh my god, Gladys. But Dota 2 getting LAN support is so huge. This is not only big for MOBAs, because, of course, League of Legends and Smite being the other two sort of powerhouses right now, other than Dota 2. Neither of them have an offline mode. So LAN support, for those of you unfamiliar, in case you happen to be born after, like, 2002, LAN support used to be the main way people played games together. They'd all get in one room with a giant, CRT monitors and big cases and just plugged into each other. And was able to play multiplayer games. Now, Dota 2 adding this, of course, why are they adding this? Well, it helps out things like tournaments, and it also helps out in the sort of Southeast Asian scene, because a lot of them don't have access to reliable internet, and oftentimes they have to play games locally, so they have to go either to a cafe or just not play games online for large periods of time. So this obviously will allow them to get into Dota, because Dota, the original Dota, is very popular there still, but they mainly play it in like cafes a lot. So by adding that sort of support, that should help in there, as well as sort of help the logistics of smaller tournaments who don't have access to reliable, big, internet connections, if you will. So obviously, big news for Dota. Valve sort of leading the charge with breaking down some sort of, barriers in terms of what people thought free-to-play games would be capable of, or what made a good free-to-play model, or what made a free-to-play game safe. We're going to go ahead and start with you, Jason. What are your sort of opinions of this? Do you think that this will spur on other developers to add in LAN support?
Yeah, I definitely think it will. I mean, like you say, it's such a good thing for tournaments, and again for helping over the international scene. And it seems so simple too. I mean, it's not like it's really an innovation. It's more like going back in time kind of thing. So it's kind of surprising no one has done it before now. And it's not something, again, that a lot of people are really not going to notice. I mean, it's not going to affect me when I want to play. If League of Legends had it, it's not something that would really affect me sitting at home. Not going to affect a lot of other people sitting at home playing this or playing whatever. But it's one of those kind of behind the scenes things almost that makes so much sense to do, but just has never really been done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with Dota 2 getting it, obviously you're going to need 10 people to sort of take advantage of LAN mode.
Yeah, it's not something you're going to have a whole lot, have a party with 10 people or 9 other people.
No. It is bringing back the LAN party. Exactly that, a party. And I think this is kind of like, goes with the times. Retro gaming is really kind of in its upswing with the whole, like, people want to play old school NES games and stuff like this, and this kind of harkens to it a little bit, bringing back the whole LAN parties. But yeah, it's going to mean a big upswing in tournaments, which can only help. I mean, it's never going to be a bad thing to have the access to have more tournaments in more places.
Yeah, particularly the smaller tournaments. Like locally, if you're like a small shop or something like that, a small game shop or whatever, you may not be able to afford a location or even an internet connection that can support 10 people on it at once simultaneously. Not only that, but whoever else is like spectating the game, you know? So by doing this, it should obviously allow for more leniency in that case. There are examples of the past of where not having LAN support have screwed over tournaments. StarCraft 2 is probably one of the best examples, having tournaments that have actually had huge major setbacks because of that. So adding that in obviously is a good measure. I'm also excited because I hope that not only MOBAs, but session-based shooters or any kind of like strategic game gets this support as well as in terms of free-to-play, because I think you should really keep that in mind, is that it's one thing to make a LAN mode on a non-free-to-play game because they already got your money at that point. But adding LAN mode into a free-to-play game is something developers tend to shy away from even further usually because of the fact of cheating and being able to sort of like hack the game and sort of undermine how free-to-play games work both financially and mechanically, which is to really offload a lot of the data from the main computers and do it on server side to prevent cheating and to prevent people from just sort of like gaming the system, if you will. So doing this is a pretty bold step. And I'm hoping it continues, honestly. I think if done right, it doesn't really affect the sort of free-to-play model, if you will. And in fact, some people have been discussing whether or not it actually would bring about mod support for Dota 2, being able to make your own custom maps like you did in the original Dota. You can make Pudge Wars, and that could come back, which was an awesome game mode.
Oh, Pudge Wars, how I missed thee.
Yes.
I almost wonder if you could do something like this for like an MMO that has a kind of really hardcore structured PvP kind of system to it.
What do you mean?
Like, the original Guild Wars was really like that. They had they were really big into the PvP. Not so much doing it in Guild Wars 2, but they could have that same sort of thing where they had their world championships and so on. Now they were, again, mostly around the internet, so it was obviously, people, around the world, rather, people had to use their internet connections, whatever. But if they wanted to have a tournament like this at a convention, like they actually had their Guild Wars 2 PvP tournament at PAX a few weeks ago. So maybe that's the sort of thing that they or some other company looking to get into big-time, e-sport-ish kind of PvP might look into.
Sure, certainly. I definitely think that having someone like Valve sort of take that initial step, because I think a lot of times other developers, smaller developers, are sort of scared to do that because they're sort of worried about what it will do to their game. So with Valve, they're a bigger company. They can afford to sort of see how this plays out. And I think a lot of times this could help other smaller developers who may not know how to approach the situation sort of mimic Dota and mimic Valve and how they approach it so that they can sort of use some of that information to make it something that's viable for multiple free-to-play games. Because I really think free-to-play is the area that is most sort of like susceptible to not getting such features of LAN. Just due to the whole thing I mentioned with how they do monetization. But I have to say big props to Valve for adding this. Valve, they're getting ready to make a huge announcement in tomorrow dealing with, we don't know it this time. We'll know once this video goes up. But they have a lot on their plate, and they keep pushing the industry forward. I feel like Valve really, really tries to push certain key areas that they see need help pushing forward in the industry to kind of keep everybody rolling and not stuck in these sort of dark ages of gaming.
I'll just say LAN has 3 letters, so Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Oh, LAN 3 letters, Half-Life 3. There you go.
All right.
Can you make LAN anything? I don't know anything in Half-Life that like uses the word or letters LAN in it as like an abbreviation, like even if rearranged. So, but yeah, 3 definitely.
Gordon Freeland.
Gordon Freeman.
Not quite, okay. Freeland.
Yeah, Freeland. There we go. All right, so big props again to Valve. We're going to go ahead and move on, though, and talk a little bit about console gaming.
Hang on. There's something
what?
we're missing.
What are we missing?
Certain announcer who's like the best announcer ever, and when I heard it, I could not stop laughing. Because you watched me laugh like really intensely for like 20 minutes.
I said that we had Gladys. She came to the game as an announcer.
We got to go way more in depth though. Like,
okay, you could do it because you really know what she did.
So if you've played any of the Portal games, obviously you understand how intensely insulting she is constantly in the greatest way possible. She demeans you the entire game. She questions what you're capable of. Well, now we have that in Dota. So all those people who love to pick on their teammates, the announcer will do it for you. It is the greatest thing ever.
The announcer doesn't pick on your teammates. The announcer picks on you.
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, okay. So either way, it still makes the experience so enjoyable. When you're having a bad game, she'll let you know. When you're having a good game, she'll take you down a couple pegs. It's awesome.
When you're having a good game, when you're having a good game, she'll say you're having a good game because of your teammates.
Yeah, it's.
Doesn't she call you a fat slob at some point or something?
Yeah. She tells you that maybe this will get you out of your parents' like basement, and maybe this will impress the guys at the local game store and things like that. It's. I love that they took this willing because this could potentially insult people, but it being that it's Gladys, like it won't. But it's amazing. I love that they actually brought something like this into play and kind
Does she ever at any point ask or say to you, the other team has cake?
I never heard cake. I never heard a reference to cake. It may
the
be
cake
in there.
is a lie, though, so I would know that they don't have cake.
It's
I would
21 minutes, though. It's 21 minutes of announcer stuff. So come on, that's a lot of stuff to go through. But I'm sure maybe cake is in there somewhere.
It doesn't mean we heard it all either. That's just what they released.
Oh.
No, it's in the game files. That's what they pulled out.
Oh, darn.
Come on. It's all that data mining.
One can hope. Either way, I love that they're bringing their other games into this, and it kind of means that maybe, who knows, maybe down the road there will actually be like Portal skins for some of the characters. How awesome would that be?
I'll probably do a new Dota update video because the last time we did our first look on it was like a long time ago. So I'll buy that, and then I'll do a Dota update video on it, and so you guys can hear all that and see what's silly and what's changed in Dota. Because I go listen to it on the entire post on MMOBomb.com. It is hilarious and quite a good listen. But why don't we go ahead then and move on to what I was trying to move on to, which was dealing with PlayStation 4, sort of switching gears for a second, going to console side of things. Now, we are MMOBomb, so of course we talk about free-to-play games. We don't talk about PC exclusive. And with the PlayStation 4 getting a large amount of those games, particularly PC games being moved over to the PlayStation 4, but still getting a lot of free-to-play games, they do deserve a mention. Now, Capcom's been working on a game called Deep Down, which kind of sounds like it's an Australian-based game for a second. It's like Deep Down Under or something like that. But
I thought it was like a submarine game. So you're talking about playing a submarine game this week. So.
Oh, yeah. No, Deep Down is not a submarine game. Deep Down has sort of like the... I really have to choose my words carefully because people will get mad. It is not Dark Souls. It does not play like Dark Souls per se, but it has the atmosphere of Dark Souls. It's very dungeony, with small corridors, and there's sort of like that slow plotting to it a little bit. And the enemies themselves are very, interesting looking. But it's basically a dungeon crawler with procedurally generated dungeons that you can tackle with, so far, what I've seen, 4 players in the videos that they've showcased. But it really captures a lot of like the powerful essence of the PlayStation 4 in the sense that it has really good fidelity on the graphics, on the particle effects. There was a video portion where I saw that a guy stopped time, and it stopped time for everyone, including the other players. And then he went around, and he was rotating around this dragon as he walked around it, and the dragon had been breathing fire at that moment, and the fire was all frozen, and it looked amazing. It looked absolutely amazing. And then he summoned, I guess, or with these scrolls, 2 fireballs, and they were stuck in time until time resumed, and then they flew at him. Things like that were like really interesting to see, and it really got me excited, even though I don't own a PlayStation 4 or have not pre-ordered one or don't know if I'll get one at release. So I was kind of curious whether or not, Jason, you or Kevin have seen a little bit of the gameplay of this, what you thought of this. I'm kind of... a lot of people were sort of looked at it as like, oh, I really wish they hadn't done this as free-to-play, because who's going to buy PlayStation 4 just for this game called Deep Down that happens to be free-to-play? Who are they sort of trying to market this to? because generally speaking, free-to-play tries to reach a broad audience, and Deep Down, of course, is going to be a game that's released only shortly after the PlayStation 4 is released in Japan, which is sometime in February. It comes out in North America, the PlayStation 4 rather, in November. So, Jason, have you actually seen anything of Deep Down? Have you looked at any of the videos?
Yeah, I watched the trailer video. I saw that and I was like, okay, so there's stuff going on and there's guys going around and there's swords and whatever and mages. And then I watched the gameplay video and I started watching the dragon fight. I was trying to cue that up. And again, even then I was sort of like, okay, it's a dragon. It's pretty impressive looking. But then I was really impressed by some of the stuff they were doing. Not only the guy who, well, the frozen time thing was amazing, but even just some of the other options he had, like the guy who was putting up, like when he was putting up those walls, those barriers.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I couldn't quite figure out is why none of the other players were doing anything. It's like the one he was just standing there with his barrier. Someone else was like maybe had a shield up, and they were just kind of standing around instead of like going at the dragon and poking at him or whatever.
I did see some people like casting fireballs, and you got to admit it was also this was at the Tokyo Game Show.
Oh, sure.
So they're trying to show off things. They don't want it to be like too convoluted or cluttered on the screen at once.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely want to get an idea for what kind of other like options there are for playing, because obviously they all look kind of the same. But I'm sure I hope they'll have like different classes or different abilities and whatnot. And I hope this is the kind of the big issue. If it's free to play, how are they going to monetize it?
It is Capcom.
Yeah,
so
I know.
If you want to use Capcom as an example from their previous games, like Street Fighter, obviously that's not a free-to-play game, but Street Fighter has a ton of DLC, like a lot of skins, right? So if you think about it, like it kind of worries me, given the fact that Capcom loves to make DLC for stuff. Like, what kind of DLC are they gonna make for Deep Down that like affects gameplay, if any?
Yeah, especially are they gonna just basically make it pay to win?
Yeah, that's sort of things. We don't have very much to go after. We do know that there are loadouts. So, Jason, you were kind of wondering how gear and stuff like that works. You can it's a dungeon-based game, right? So
sure.
you make a loadout and then you take that in. And I'm just gonna make a slight comparison here. It's not a full-on comparison. It is just sort of like to give you an idea of what it seems like it's going to be. It kind of seems like Warframe, where you'll have your loadout. You kind of select what you're going to use, and then you queue up with other players, and then you tackle on a dungeon, and that dungeon is procedurally generated, but has sort of like an overall theme. And that kind of seems like what Deep Down's done, but obviously not with space ninjas, more medieval. Though there is a futuristic element to it. In the trailer, it keeps showing like it obviously didn't look medieval at the very beginning. It was like some kind of, I don't know, apartment or something like that. Kind of like Assassin's Creed, a little bit in that sense. So we'll see how that actually plays into it. It got me excited, I have to say. I'm really interested to see it. It doesn't seem like it has as in-depth of combat as, say, Dark Souls. It didn't really look like there was any parrying or blocking, just sort of like dashes around, like dash back and stuff like that. But there was some weight behind each attack, which was more Dark Soul-ish.
It looked pretty realistic, kind of in the sense of the attack, but yeah, it was very, very like just poke with the spear and limited in its scope of attacks. But I mean, fluid and gorgeous. As I said, it looks like a really, really, really high-end game from the graphics and all that, which is kind of impressive for it being free to play. But yeah, it does worry me about Capcom being the way they are. I mean, I'm assuming it's just going to be skins and different looking weapons and stuff like that. But there's a very strong likelihood that it'll end up sliding toward the the play to win.
But regardless, it does show that Sony is really sort of dedicated and serious about free to play, right? Like, this isn't just like some PC game that they decided to port over.
There's too much money in this for this just to be like a little. I mean, you don't get graphics and stuff like that just by let's give them a little bit of money. No, there's some serious work on this. It shows a true desire to make the PlayStation 4 free to play console. I feel like.
It is also noteworthy that it wasn't the developers of Deep Down who announced that it was going to be free to play. Well, they did during the presentation, but it was actually a tweet from the president of, I think, development at Sony, not SOE, but Sony, so it's in Japan, that announced that it was going to be free to play. So Sony is very much behind the fact that Deep Down is free to play, and I suspect Sony is the ones who urged Deep Down to be free to play. Because they've been urging a lot of developers who have free-to-play games to come over and add their game to the roster, and I really like what Sony's doing with that. So Here's hoping that the game is not watered down and not pay to win, and something that if I ever do get a PlayStation 4, which I probably will, am looking forward to playing, because I was like you, Jason. I was like on the fence. I was like, okay, it's pretty cool, like good looking, and then he froze time, and I was like, what? That's crazy. I'd never seen a game freeze time for everybody. And then you could move around, and like the fire effects were all frozen.
It seems so OP. He had like 30 seconds. I mean, I don't know.
He had forever.
Maybe that's what the microtransaction is. So the freeze time is only 5 seconds, but if you pay money, you can get it to 30.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be crazy. You imagine having that ability in PvP?
Oh, that would be impossible. Yeah.
You just freeze time and just like throw a bunch
win.
of fireballs at him in like one area, so it's like completely circled with fireballs, and you're just like, all right, here we go, do it. Alrighty then. So we're going to move on just a little bit here. We're going to talk about TERA Online. Specifically, we're going to talk about North American TERA. So, Inmass Studios, the publisher behind TERA for North America, they held an event. I say held in the past tense because by the time you guys watch this or listen to it, it will have already been over. But they held an event over the weekend that essentially let you take a brand new character and have it leveled up to 58, complete with a set of equipment, a mount, a lot of your skills unlocked, and then stuff that you can sell for money. Which really surprised me. We haven't really seen this done in a lot of MMOs. We had this sort of done with World of Warcraft back during the end of Cataclysm, but that was more along the terms of bringing old players back, getting them to sort of like play with their other friends. So you could like level up to 80, and then you would get like a free expansion and free transfer and free. It was free transfer and free faction change. But this is like a brand new character. You just make it on any server you want, any faction or not faction, any race, and it'll automatically get leveled to 58, which is 2 from the cap of 60. So I think this is pretty cool. I know me and Kevin both made a new character because I like the combat in TERA, but I hate the leveling. Like, I think I've only gotten to like level 12 in that game because I just cannot bring myself to level in TERA.
Yeah, I was at level like 14. I'm like, oh, this is so grindy. Like, it's fun. I love the combat. It's the open and the non-tabbing, and it's beautiful, and it looks great, and it's so grindy, like just tedious. You don't get much experience from each monster that you kill, and yeah, I'm excited to actually get back on and actually play with a character that I'm going to spend 7 years just trying to get to level like 30.
So this opens up an interesting sort of argument. It's actually, I was surprised there's quite a few amount of discussions going on in the actual official posts on MMOBomb.com about this, but a lot of people were saying like, oh, this is going to make, an influx of bad players at high level because they're not going to know how to play the class, and other players are going to be like, good, because now we don't have to deal with leveling up to that grindy. And then other people were like, it's not that bad, why are you guys complaining, this is terrible because this is going to do things to TERA, for those that want to level up, because it'll be ghost towns in certain areas. So we had like a lot of different opinions on these things. Jason, what do you feel are sort of like the long-term ramifications of this? Do you think this will provide a huge influx of new players, existing players? What do you think this will have in terms of effect on the population?
I think it's not going to be a whole lot. I mean, I think it's going to get a few people in. It's going to get a few people back in. But I don't know. You are right. I was the same way in that I played it. I actually got to level 18, I think, before I decided I was done. Yeah, I was way far ahead. But and then some of the end game stuff I actually got to sample at a convention, and it was kind of cool. But in my opinion,
enjoyed the dungeons. Yeah.
I never got to a dungeon. We did like a 4-man, it's like a horde mode kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
But I guess I'm not as impressed with the combat in TERA as almost everyone else seems to be. Because to me it's still, and again, it changed a little bit at higher levels, but it's still mostly 2 buttons. It still was mostly my attack and my defense, with occasional like maybe dodging aside.
What class did you play?
Was it the Berserker? Is that what it is? The 2-handed weapon guy?
I played the Mage in a dungeon. This was about a year ago. And I found that the Mage actually has quite a few buttons at their disposal.
Well, a mage might not have much ability to auto attack or basically to basic attack like a melee class would. But I mean, again, I think first of all the fact that it is kind of short term means that it's not going to be a whole lot of people getting into it, getting to try it out. It might be something they do again more often, depending on, of course, how this was.
They did mention that they're going to use this as sort of like a test to gauge like interest.
Yeah, but I think they're doing it because they want more people playing the game, because, frankly, they know their leveling sucks.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If they know that they're having that much trouble drawing people in normally and they're having to resort to this gimmick, that just doesn't strike me as a really healthy game.
No, at least it doesn't strike you as a healthy game in the early sense. It seems like they're really committed to adding a lot of new content, like in-game content.
Yeah,
but not
which is another
really...
kind of funny thing. It's like when they first announced that, I think it was their 5-on-5 battlegrounds, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They first announced it. I saw the announcement for it. I was like, okay, so they're putting that in. And then I read, have to be at least level 50 to do it. And I was like, oh. You guys not even... No, never mind. But yeah, you're right. They should just have skipped out the entire like first 50 levels or so. If they're going to put you up there and if they're only going to put the cool stuff at that point. Just skip the first 50. Let that go forever.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder why they make the level cap so high. Because like all the in-game, and they are really focused on in-game stuff. Why to make it so high and make it so long to get to that point. But I don't really think this will do a whole lot for the mid-levels because it is very limited. If you read it and did the thing, is very specific. You only get one character. So, I mean, I see a lot of people that already play, instead of like leveling one that they already have, they're just going to be like, okay, I was always interested in trying this class, but it doesn't get good until the later levels. Now I can do it. But, I mean, it's not like they're going to triple the amount of people with these high-end ones. At most part, I think it's going to be someone trying out a new class and getting it up to a level, instead of everyone just spamming a ton of new characters.
Yeah, I think that it won't have like a huge impact in the long run in terms of like the health of the community, because it's not like they're introducing like an influx of a lot of gold or anything that could ruin the economy so much. More on the lines of they're just letting players who have been showed interest in TERA enough so to download the game and go through this process of making a character to really give them a chance to actually experience the game in the areas that they want to experience it in, which is like towards end game. Because they must have seen, in their own internal data that a lot of players were playing, but not getting very far in the leveling process, which would spur them on to do this so that they could get far without having to go through that. So we'll take a look at the game in terms of what it's like 58 to 60 with all the new content. I'm sure since now that we have our new characters, and we'll probably report back how it is actually for making a character through that sort of level up process, whether or not it actually like is meaningful. Because you got to remember, okay, you're level 58, but you haven't had all that time to get a bunch of gold or a bunch of bags or a bunch of mounts or whatever else that sort of makes you invested in that character and feel that character has worth. Because it's a little bit different when you just automatically get a character at that level. Especially, I know this firsthand, like as playing press release characters, like pre-made characters that they give you for reviews. You're just kind of like, all right, I have this character now. It has all these things. I'm not really invested in this character. But we'll see exactly how that actually plays out in the long run. Alrighty, now for our next article here, we're going to talk about World of Warplanes again. I say again because it seems like we talked about World of Warplanes. I think we talk about World of Warplanes at least once a month. Like, it's sort of like a ritual. It has to be.
Still not as bad as MOBAs, so...
No, not at all. But
we did talk about a MOBA today. Oh, my goodness.
We did talk about... Oh, yeah, we did, but hey, it was a little different. It was about, like, LAN. It wasn't...
It's about one we care about, too.
It's not about a new MOBA. There was no new MOBA announced this week? Really?
No.
Are we sure of this?
I think so.
Sure?
Don't look. Don't even look. Don't go there.
I think if I really try hard, I could find one.
I'll be doing a Google
That's
search.
That's not a
last
rabbit
week
trail we need to find.
Please, you're like, don't go after that. All right, so World of Warplanes. What exactly is going on with World of Warplanes? Has it released yet? Isn't it supposed to release this week on September 26th? Well, that was the case, but apparently now it's been delayed until November 12th. So we've got 6 weeks here to go before it now comes out. Now, what were these 6 weeks for? According to Victor, what is Victor? Victor,
CEO, I believe.
Well, he's Vlad.
CEO,
No, not Victor. Sorry, Vlad Belozerov
Oh,
He's
it's
the
someone
World of
else. Okay, not
Warplanes
Victor.
Director of Global Operations. Usually Victor is the one saying this, which is why I thought it was Victor for a second, but it's Vlad.
Vlad.
Vlad says, we're committed to releasing a great title and are doing everything to ensure that World of Warplanes gets the final polish we believe the game needs. The extra time will allow the development team to fine-tune the game balance and make sure that every feature is top-notch before launch. So the gist of it is they need to fine-tune the game. But the thing about it is fine-tuning is very broad. That's not really... Okay, fine-tune. What? Graphics? Controls?
I think they realized that War Thunder is so much better that they need to make their game more like it.
I like how you just came out and said that. Like, just right off the bat. Like, elephant in the room.
That's what I do. So
bam.
let's just be honest here for a second. I mean, the game has been in beta for so long. Like, what are they fine-tuning? They haven't really made any major changes to the game since it released in beta. Like, nothing that would seem like, okay, what do they really need to tweak? The only thing I can think of is that they're terrified of how badly they're doing compared to this other game. And they're like, crap, we have to make something big happen or this game's not going to exist.
I really think this is a case of they delayed too long and a better product came along. Mm-hmm. Like, that happens. That doesn't just happen in games. Like, that happens in real life. Like, someone will announce a product. They'll announce their intentions of the product, and then it'll take too long, and a competitor will beat them to the punch. And sometimes the competitor has a better product, and sometimes they don't. And in this case, from what I've spent a pretty decent amount of time with both of them, and War Thunder is the better flight simulator, combat flight simulator. Like, it just is. Like, there may be certain things that people like about World of Warplanes better than War of Thunder, and things that people like War Thunder about than World of Warplanes. But when you put them head to head, overall, the experience is just a better overall one for most individuals in War Thunder, which really sort of has me wondering, you know, Wargaming has all this money. It's derived all from World of Tanks. And they've been investing and investing and investing in World of Warplanes and in World of Warships, which is the one after World of Warplanes. But what happens if World of Warplanes isn't a success like World of Tanks was? What happens if it's a gigantic flop? What happens to Wargaming at that point? Their whole structure is built around these three titles. So if one of the three titles, the second one in the line to be released, is having major issues with actually capturing that audience, how do you sort of use the momentum from one game and then a pseudo, not failed, but not exactly like excelling game to continue, you know, the structure of paying for huge booths at E3 and such? Like, I'm sort of really concerned about Wargaming because it kind of looks like they've just been putting all their eggs in one basket, right? And they're like, yeah, we're going to have battleships eventually, and we're going to have these planes. But then you look at War Thunder and their plans for the future, and they've got tanks and battleships coming too, in the same level. Like, that's their plan, for both of them to be able to do it at once. Whereas in World of Warplanes, World of Tanks, World of Battleships, they specifically have said they will not be crossed. So you will not be able to bomb tanks with players in them or shoot at battleships from, you know, the air. Like, those
haven't they said that might be a thing? That's something they might look into. I haven't seen that, but I know that they said specifically, like, clan wars have some effects. So, like, winning something in World of Warplanes affects your winnings in World of Tanks. But I have never seen them specifically come out and say that they want to integrate the two together. I have seen them on multiple occasions deny it and say that they're not going to be able to do that, at least right now. But I haven't really seen it. Looks like we lost Kevin there for a second. I haven't really seen it in the short run of things, anything like in development, if you will. Maybe you're right. I just thought I'd read that somewhere.
Yeah.
But which is too bad, because I was going to say that, you know, maybe they can just kind of let it slide and can go with what it is, and then whenever they get to their integration plan, maybe they can make sure that it blows away whatever Gaijin does. But if that's not in the cards, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you can do. If you're, they're going to be diehards, you know, diehard wargaming fans who are still going to get into it, and maybe it's not a terrible thing if you're really just like number 2 in the market for this sort of thing. Obviously you don't have to be World of Warcraft to be a successful MMO. You can still be do other things well, and that's what they're gonna have to do. Is they're gonna have to figure out what they do better than World of War or than War Thunder, and maybe go with that. Maybe they can tout it as maybe a more realistic kind of game or a more historically accurate kind of game or something like that to try and emphasize their strengths while downplaying their weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There has been complaints about War Thunder and some of the grind. Sometimes people feel like some of the planes instantly kill other people if you've upgraded it a little bit. So there's a little bit of like balance complaints from individuals. Whether or not those are valid, depend on skill level and the actual plane levels themselves, and whether or not you've been playing War Thunder for a while. So that all has to be taken with a grain of salt. But there are people out there that have been complaining about it in some way. But it doesn't seem to hold a candle to how many people have been complaining about warplanes. So we'll see exactly how this actually plays out as we get closer to November 12th, the official release. We'll see exactly how Wargaming plans to handle this. You know what they may do is just release the game and then never talk about it again. Really? They may release... Go ahead.
It's like you've been saying. I mean, they really haven't changed it much throughout beta. Who knows what they're going to do in the next 6 weeks. So maybe that's just their plan. Is they're just going to tweak what little things they can and then just go ahead and launch it and then keep tweaking it and keep modifying it as much as you can while it's still out. Because you might as well. You've already made it. You're gonna sell your gold for it. You're gonna make some money off it, and just kind of not do it radical changes. I don't know if you can do that at this point anyway. So why not just toss it out there?
Yeah, at this point, I think that it is what it is. I mean, we've already seen what it looks like. People have already made their decisions. It's too late in the game, I think, to make radical changes. Exactly like Jason said. What I think they have to do to really survive as wargaming is just hope that it does well enough that it doesn't sink them, that warships can then make or break them. As long as warships does fine, I think they can get past World of Warplanes not being great, being even a far number 2, because they'll have 2 solid games. If warships tanks as well, yeah, they're really not in good shape because they have 1 game that's doing okay and 2 bleeding money. I think that's where it's going to come down to.
So you said that warplanes can't sink battleships, and then you said battleships can't tank.
Yeah,
you're really mixing your metaphors here.
I'd like to make horrible puns. It's fun.
I have to admit, what I saw at E3 with World of Battleships was encouraging, I guess you could say. What I saw was encouraging. There was some noticeable, interesting mechanics in play, especially with the carrier and having access to sort of like an RTS sort of interface where you can control groups of planes. There seemed to be more promise in that than World of Warplanes. But keep in mind, Gaijin Entertainment, they're not just over here twiddling their thumbs. We don't know what they've been touting their tank update for a while now, and we don't know what's actually going to be like. But if that new trailer, which by the way, I think Wargaming has a new contender for who can make the most badass World War II trailer now.
Yeah.
If we go by the trailer, the whole integration of all of that seems to be pretty hardcore, and it's going to be quite frenetic, if you will, frantic. So I'm
Frenetic works too.
Frenetic works, yeah, both, yeah. Well, both of those words do a good job together. You just smash them together, and then you have 2 words, and then you get the point across. It's going to be frantic. All right. So
just one last thing too. I did look up new MOBA on Google for the past week.
Oh, please no.
And someone says he's trying to make a real new MOBA game because I live in a country that doesn't have either gaming companies or people who would study about game creation because we lack supply and demand. So he's looking for a team of 5 to 10 people. So
to make a MOBA.
There's your new MOBA news of the week.
There you go, guys.
But it wasn't an actual MOBA, so I'm okay.
It's not a free-to-play podcast without some MOBA news.
Trying to see if I can figure out what country he's in, and it does not say.
He's in Antarctica. That's why there's no supply or demand. No one makes games in Antarctica. The penguins? No. Wait, are penguins in Antarctica?
Yes.
Yes. Aha! Okay, I was right. There we go. Okie doke. So why don't we go ahead then and move on to the weekly bombs? Now that we've sort of talked about some of the more interesting news of the week. dealing with the weekly bombs, I will go first. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give an A-bomb to my backyard tree. It is a terrible tree. It is terrible at video games with me, so I'm giving an A-bomb. No, the tree itself, there was a small windstorm. You know, I would say mild, 15, maybe 20 mile an hour winds. Nothing to get, you know, your hair in a tizzy about. Get it? Nah, I don't know. But my backyard tree, apparently it was too much. This tree is not little. This tree is a pretty decent-sized tree. And half of it just cracked in half and fell on my fence. And now it's stuck on my fence. And I cannot move it because it is huge. So, yay for losing half of my tree. A-bomb to that tree. Go get turned into mulch. I don't know how do you insult a tree, so I hope you get turned into mulch.
You tell it to leaf?
Uproot and
I'm sorry,
leaf.
that was
No,
bad.
you gotta tell it
That
to
was bad.
uproot and leaf.
Yep.
Or run. If you go by the Nature's Prophet, he goes uproot and run. That's what he says.
Yeah.
But make like a tree and uproot and run. I don't know. Doesn't
Make like a
sense.
tree and leaf. There we go.
There we go. All right, Jason, what is your A-bomb to bomb?
A-bomb to your ability to tell puns. And anyway,
I don't know.
Kevin was
I've
much
never
better.
said mine were good.
No,
Oh,
Kevin,
okay,
yeah,
thank
Kevin
you.
was better. Yeah, Spunky not so much. Anyway,
It's all right. I get it.
I'm gonna give I guess a mild A-bomb to Lord of the Rings Online. Not like, oh my god, I hate this is the stupidest thing ever kind of thing, but I know that they're revising their skill system. That's the big thing that they're doing in Helm's Deep, which is okay. But having just gotten back into playing the game a little more, and having gotten my first new weapon in a long time, my first new legendary weapon, oh my god, I forgot what an absolute pain in the ass the legendary weapon system was. Especially if you've been away from it for a while and you don't remember exactly where to get all the widgets and all the different scrolls and all the gems and all the settings and all the junk you need to make it perfect. It is just such a pain in the... I want to say so many bad words right now, but we don't want to make this podcast R-rated probably. That is what I wish...
What we could do is we could just
That's
like...
what bleeps are for.
That's you'll bleep them later. Yeah, sure, okay. That's what I wish they would have revised, and not the skill system. I don't mind the skills. It's typical MMO skills. You got 30, 40 things on your bar, whatever. I can deal with it. But the legendary item system, that's got to be the next thing they address. I sure hope it is. If not,
But aren't legendary weapons and stuff supposed to be like something that you invest in that takes a while to make?
well, the thing is, they were of reasonable complexity, and then they added another thing, and then they added another thing, and then they added another thing on top of it, to the point where not only is it so complex to deal with for someone who's, I've played it reasonably a fair amount over the last year or so, but I can't imagine coming back into it or being a new player and having to understand it all.
Let me ask you, how like important are legendaries? Like,
Well, you have to have them.
you have to.
Yeah, you have to. There's no choice. They're the most powerful things in the game.
Because I'm playing World of Warcraft right now, and I'm working on my legendary cloak. It is a very involved process. I am behind. I am well aware. For those of you who play World of Warcraft, you know. And it is like I'm on, I don't know, step 5 of 8 or something like that. And each step probably takes a couple weeks each.
Well, the thing is, and I don't know because I don't play WoW, but I'm assuming it says go do this thing.
Well,
kill this thing.
right now, what it is collecting these sigils. You have to collect 20 sigils, and the sigils I get from doing raids, and it's random chance if I get a sigil. So I have to do raids over and over and over until I get enough sigils so that I can turn that in and do the next part of it.
See, but that's basically just a series of quests, though, isn't it? Find 10 of this and go do this, then kill 20 of these and do that.
In so many words, yeah.
Yeah, this is not like that. This is more like fine-tuning your car. If you're like a car nut and you have to tweak this thing and this part of the engine and get the tires shined up, it's like you have the car, you have the legendary weapon, but you got to do all this stuff to it.
Oh, really?
That's where it kind of. Then I got to replace the engine every few levels because I have to get a new engine because I don't have enough DPS in my engine, or it's just.
I see. Yeah, when they make a legendary weapon in World of Warcraft, it supposedly carries you for pretty much the rest of the expansion. It's supposed to.
Yeah. What you sound like, it's like building a computer. You get a case and you get a motherboard and you get a video card. You get all the stuff. You just put it together and there's your legendary.
Yes.
This is like me having the same computer for like 10 years and having to replace this and that and the other thing and doing all the other stuff and having to upgrade and having to go online to figure out what I need to put in it and yeah.
Yeah, for World of Warcraft, it's an epic. You do all this process, you make an epic out of it, and then the epic turns into a legendary eventually.
Sure.
That's how it works. All right, and then Kevin, what is your A-bomb, da-bomb for this week?
Well, mine's a small da-bomb. Well, I guess it's not a small bomb. It's an actual just regular da-bomb. If anyone who listens obviously has already figured it out, I play Magic the Gathering. I've been a big fan of it for so many years. But one of the things that just happened this last weekend was the pre-release for the new set, Theros. Now, my da-bomb is really more for just Wizards of the Coast of how they handle these. Now, in years past, it used to just be you get the product like, a week before it came out. But in more recent years, they've really started focusing on bringing new people to the game and really making it about the experience. So there's a lot of promo items, special events, things like that, and it really has kind of helped just everyone have a lot more fun. At our store, we had 30-plus people at the midnight release. We had to limit it, and people who wanted to come couldn't even do it just because there was such a popular thing. But almost half of them were new, and that was huge for me, is seeing that a company makes a huge effort for the people who play. They don't care so much about, they're not focused on like, okay, we've already got these bunch of people, let's just focus on them. Let's continue to improve the experience for all these other people so that more people want to join, more people want to be a part of that. And I wish sometimes more gaming companies had that attitude, that they really went for the people who aren't playing the game and not just be like, okay, these people are already playing the game, let's reward them. So, the bomb to Wizards of the Coast.
There we
Yeah,
go.
they figured that out like 15 years ago. That's the only way to keep going. And you're right. Most other companies just don't get that.
There's a lot of game companies that could look back and harken back to legitimate board game companies and card game companies to see like how business practices they've done, what they've done, and sort of translate that over. Because I think looking at card games, especially like Magic the Gathering, from a free-to-play game company perspective is a good thing to do, like you mentioned, Kevin, because of the fact that Magic the Gathering survives on releasing new content and having people purchase new content.
Mm-hmm.
So having that sort of similar mentality of rewarding players in a free-to-play game for them being, consistent users, whether they pay a lot or they pay a little, but them being consistent players is certainly a nice thing to see. And I think Valve is one of the better examples. They give out random rewards in DOTA a lot.
Oh, Valve is great. Valve is I would say is the premier online gaming company. I mean, yeah, they push the boundaries as we've already talked about today. Their customer reviews, like everyone loves working for them. I mean, Jason, wasn't it like the other week that you talked about that website you looked up and Valve was number one with Riot number two or something like that?
Well, they were number one with they only had 5 reviews, so they were a little, but they were just ahead of Riot, which had a lot more. But yes.
Yeah, I mean.
But those aren't customers too; those are employee reviews.
Yeah, so, but that's really saying something, though.
Yes.
That is indeed. So, Valve, you can just send our commission check to
I wish, right?
I think we've given you at least 15 minutes of our promotionary.
So wait, do I get something from Wizards then too?
Yeah, you work at a game company. You work at a card shop. Like you just get stuff from them all the time.
You get
not to keep.
You get like a swamp.
A swamp.
I get the holiday card. That's it.
The holiday card. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't play. Let's go on to member bombs. All right. So member bombs here. We've got F. Jones, 1984. He says, I bomb to Firefall for killing PvP. I was one of the 3%. He was
like, I am the 3%.
I am the 3%. Now the game has nothing to offer me. Seriously, an FPS with no PvP? What are they thinking?
This is a bad game? Oh no, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I get why they did it. I still don't think it's intelligent, but I get it.
It affects someone no matter if you think that it's only 3% or not. Those 3%, it does affect them. And he's one of those 3%. And so you feel bad for him.
Yeah, but, yeah, you feel bad for him, but you can understand why they do it then if it is only 3%.
Oh, yeah, I know. But still, what I don't understand is why didn't they just keep it in?
Like, and just work on it and then fix it while it's still in the system.
They said that they didn't think it represented the game, which that's legitimate. But if no one ever even knows it exists, how is it representing the game if no one even sees it? Like, just let the people that are playing it play it and make a new version and then show it to people and make people think about PvP. I don't know.
Maybe because then it made it easier for them to lay off 10% of their staff.
Maybe, but they said that it's only for like the YouTube channel, so That was the reason why I didn't really report on it.
And Hi-Res says they don't spy on people. Let's all believe everybody.
What's this believe
Mr.
what was
Cynical
posted on
over here.
Hey. Did you read that on the internet? Don't you know? Do you believe everything that you read on the internet, Kevin? Is everything on the internet true?
Yeah, I read it on the internet that everything on the internet is true.
Ah, I see. Why don't you go ahead, Kevin, then, and take the next bomb, since you read that on the internet.
That's great.
So from Clay, the bomb for Squid for being an amazing guest / host. Like to hear more from her on Bombcast.
Yeah,
I think she's a cool person.
Yeah.
She was better. Told you she was great.
Oh, okay, that hurts. That's the last time I ever agree with you on anything.
I just lined that one up,
not.
served it up, and like, oh really? Is that what
Even though I walked into that one a little bit, but
you walked into it, you stride. That was like a
sprinted,
stride.
had full speed. No, I've gotten to meet Squid. I think she's an amazing person. So yeah, I thought the podcast. Well, I actually got to hear it, so it sounded great. I think we should have her on. So yeah, I agree.
He agrees.
The bomb.
You don't have to say anything about it. You could just be like, oh yeah, Squid, yes, excellent, bravo.
Well, I could be that guy and be like, well, she's horrible, but no, it's not true. So,
Jason, what do you think of her since she's not here right now?
She
We're
was
gonna
good.
talk behind her back.
Remember we said after we went off, we were like, yeah, you sounded like you knew what we were talking about. It's the same as us, pretty much.
Yeah, you just fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right, Jason, take the last guy.
All right, this is from Shasao33.
Actually, it's from Clay. Oh, no, that is from Chashao.
No, it's
Never
from
mind.
Shasao. All right. It says The Bomb to Underhell, a free Half-Life 2 mod. It doesn't even require Half-Life. It's a horror first-person shooter. It has a great story. It took me 3 weeks, over 72 hours, to complete the prologue in Chapter 1. It's still being worked on, and I can't wait until it's complete. Chapter 1 is very creepy, and I was scared throughout it. I would say it's just as creepy and scary to play as Amnesia.
There you go, guys. So if you're interested in something like Amnesia or scarier than Amnesia, Chashao has your fix.
I would just like to say, he said it took him 3 weeks to play the Half-Life 2 mod, so Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Oh! Every time there's
Wow.
a 3, there we go.
Yep.
Now, I do have one last bomb that I wanted to mention just because it was from Mystica, right? Mystica, he said this was the first time that he actually commented on a free-to-play podcast in a while, so I had to include him. I just had to. And he says the bomb for Valve for finally implementing LAN support for Dota 2. The devs, which did Age of Empires 2 HD, take note of this. I don't know why the original Age of Empires 2, when it got revamped, didn't have LAN support. As well as Portal Pack, includes Gladys Announcer, HUD-skin, and a custom ward. It took a long time, but I'm grateful nonetheless that it's finally here. Mystica, we thank you for actually coming on and giving us a comment. As always, we thank everybody for coming on and giving us their opinions and their bombs, A-bombs. Always love you guys, even if you don't comment on us. We just like that you come back over every week and continue listening and watching the show. Now, the question of the week last week was, should developers make older free-to-play expansions free once new ones come out? We actually got a lot of discussion about it, quite a bit. And so, starting with Sailor Naruto 39, he says, I totally think games should make older expansions free. But I, for one, will not play a game that has any sort of paid content besides cash out. So it's not like I'd be playing it anyways. I'd rather spend that money on a Big Mac, like food. You think a Big Mac is food?
Well,
It's like
Sure.
a wrap.
Well,
it's a wrapper
you can
filled
eat
with
it.
grease.
We didn't say it's healthy or even remotely
Yes.
tasty. Just it's
you can eat just about anything.
I'll eat the sauce.
in some country they eat people.
Okay.
All right.
I don't want to have the Big Macs there.
There we go.
Big Macs. They made it out of Mac.
Could be.
He was big.
I was going with it could be worse. It could be eating someone else. But no, we'll just try to say that I was saying let's eat someone else. So
What's that? Those are the McDonald's in Scotland?
Oh. I didn't even get that reference. I just thought it was. I assumed it was some kind of insult.
Yeah, a guy named Mac in Scotland.
Oh, really? Okay. I just thought I thought it was some kind of insult towards Scotland. Scotland eating people or something like that. I don't know. I'm sorry, Scotland. You're a good country. Don't hate on me. You got
okay.
roughed around in the past. All right, Jason. Why don't you go ahead and take the next one?
All right, this is from Death's Call 1. It says, if you could still play, then it is free to play literally. That would be like saying just because TERA added costumes and many consumables or that elites get multiple runs, one-time dungeon a day is buy to play, when reality is more like pay to win. Yes, an expansion can be massive whole other continents, tiers, and items, but an expansion is not required to play with friends or enjoy the game.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, if you want to keep going past whatever level 50 and add 10 levels in the cap or something, you kind of, it's not technically necessary. But still, you're gonna.
What about playing? What about playing the World of Warcraft trial where you only go to level 20? That's technically free to play.
Sure. Yeah. By that same logic.
That's tons of fun. I'm shaking my head right now.
Tons. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that it can be fun for a while, but I think that's why a lot of people like move on from game to game if they don't want to play, is because they're like, well, I've hit the point where without buying anything, I can't do anything more fun. Yeah, I can't progress or anything like that. So yeah, I from a literal interpretation, yeah, he's correct, but I really find it hard to agree with that.
Indeed. All right, so Kevin, why don't you go ahead and take the final question of the week response?
Mega 17. In my opinion, expansions on an originally free-to-play game makes it buy-to-play. Buy-to-play meaning you pay for the content and getting a lifetime pass. So I think he's saying that if you buy one expansion, you should get all the next ones for free?
No, I think what he's saying is that if it's free and then you have to buy an expansion, it makes the game no longer free at that point, and it becomes buy-to-play in his mentality.
I would agree with that.
To an extent.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously... Well, because you don't have to keep buying for things. Okay, like if you buy an expansion, it's not like you're paying a subscription. Yes, you may have to buy the next expansion, but that's not going to be every single month for, well, most games. Not all.
True. But he did go on to say that I do think previous expansions should be free. Most know that the majority of profit is made in the early months of an expansion's release. Anything after is chump change. Maybe in the sense of a pay-to-play game like World of Warcraft, but I don't know so much in the free-to-play game. And I don't know. Lotro is a prime example of a free-to-play game that releases expansions and then also has a cash shop. But there's no, obviously, pay-to-play element to that. So it's interesting that he says that he thinks previous expansions should be free, but he basically says that you have a buy-to-play element in the fact that you do have to buy to continue playing the game. So it's like a pseudo thing with him. I don't know. He seems to be a little bit on the fence about it. There's two separate comments that he made. He's like, he said, like, I think it's buy to play, but I don't think you should pay for the previous ones, which makes it only buy to play up until the newest. I don't know. Mega 17, I get what you're going at, but you seem like you're on the fence a little bit, buddy. I don't know. The question of this week, though, is... It's in regards to land support, honestly. I'm wondering, guys, is land support something you would personally benefit from? We talk about how great it is to have something like land support in a game, but is it something that you would personally benefit from? Would you actually go somewhere and play games with other people on LAN? Have you done that in the past? Let us know in the comments below. For me, I know for me personally, it used to be the only way I played games with people.
I remember at a friend's place, this is like 13 years ago probably, or around 2000 or so, playing StarCraft. But I mean, nowadays, I don't go outside.
No. I used to play Neverwinter Nights through LAN.
I've played StarCraft, Halo, Diablo 2, I mean, so many games on LAN. Yeah, I think most of my gaming was done on LAN.
But of course, but now that you don't have to, now that you can just sit at your home or whatever, you'd rather do that.
It's still, I like the idea. I would still play some, I would love to play Dota 2 on LAN. I think that's actually going to be something that will happen. It's because there's nothing else that's good practice without having to deal with people and upsetting people because I'm horrible at it, kind of idea. So
you could just be horrible with other people that you know.
And
exactly. No, that's fine.
You upset them in person.
Going into it that I'm going to be terrible, and I'll get to be like, I'm sorry the whole time, and I won't have to type it. I could have saved some typing, I guess.
You just shouted over the computer monitors. Well, all right, guys, that has been this week's episode of the Free to Play Podcast. As usual, go ahead and like, subscribe, leave us comments in the comment section down below, letting us know what you thought of the show, any suggestions, and just answering our normal questions. You can send me an email personally at Michael, or it's not at Michael, it's Michael at MMOBomb.com. But for the rest of the cast here, why don't we go ahead and see how you would contact them if you so choose to do so. So starting with Jason. Jason, what is the normal way people can get a hold of you?
Well, my phone number is 704. Oh, no, wait. No. No, I can find me on Twitter at Winter Informal. I also stream semi-regularly, usually Saturday nights at twitch.tv/JasonWinter. And in case you haven't already, go and check out my blog, jasonwinter.wordpress.com.
What is, I'm going to go there right now. What is on jasonwinter.wordpress.com?
I wrote about
jasonwinter.wordpress.com.
I wrote about how people suck.
Let me see here. It's not you, it's me.
Yep, people suck.
I see. That's this current article, guys. Go read that on jasonwinter.wordpress.com. I like how it's called Wintry Mix. Wintry Mix.
I used to cover a couple different things more than gaming, but then I just decided, just gaming. But that's why it's the mix part.
I like how there's nothing but snow everywhere. You're really playing up your last name.
That is actually, I believe, a Lotro screenshot in the background there.
Oh, there you go, guys. Kevin, how do people contact you?
Well, did you just use a weird voice?
Maybe. It's getting late.
Well, people don't seem to be contacting me, so I'm kind of debating not having this anymore. But at the moment, it's no social media K on Twitter. My Facebook is none of your business, and no one ever mentioned anything about the whole, like, wasn't there talk about a girlfriend you can leave comments and stuff like that in the whatever? Yeah, that never happened. I'm kind of happy about that. It would have been terrifying. But yeah, that's it for me.
All right, then. That is it. Something about a girlfriend never happening.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I think he's talking about him never having a girlfriend.
Probably.
Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about.
That's exactly what he's talking about, guys.
Read into that as much as you want. Totally true.
No, I can confirm. I have seen him talking to a girl in real life. That has happened. A girl that he did like. That happened as well. So, Kevin, you're doing a good job there, buddy.
Keep
it up.
These are lies. These are lies. Okay, these aren't lies, but...
These are lies. These are sweet little lies. Alrighty, then.
Mistakes were made.
For all of us here on the Free to Play Podcast, we thank you for your time, your attention, and anything else that you've given us during this hour. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Spunkify out. Later, guys.